Some key points to consider in transition. I'm yet to go through that stage, but it's fast approaching, and I suppose what I've picked up from ex-teammates that have transitioned, ones that have transitioned well, ones that haven't, I think the important thing to keep in mind is that no one enjoys it. It's not easy for anyone, even the ones that you look at and think, they've done a great job of moving from rugby to another career. When you ask them, everyone agrees it's 2-3 years of a tough life where you are struggling to find something that will even come close to motivating you the way your sport did. And I think you've just got to acknowledge that. I've already acknowledged that, the next 2 years there's going to be a lot of challenges. But at the same time, there's a lot of help around. I think the ability, and it's becoming more and more common to talk with other teammates, ex-players going through the same thing, to talk to them, see what helps, see what challenges they faced, how they dealt with it. I think that's very helpful. And the last thing is, you've got to be proactive. You can't wait for a perfect opportunity to come along. You've got to go out, search, get out of the comfort zone, do some things that you might never do again, but they all help in trying to find a vocation, trying to find something that will, motivate you, get you out of bed in the morning. Like I say, it might not be easy, but there's a lot of help around, and if you take a proactive approach, then and use the skills that you learned from your sport, then I think you can make a successful transition. I think having, for an athlete to have areas outside of their sport is absolutely essential, whether that is study, work experience, or whatever it is. I think, you achieve most from your sport when you're able to switch on and switch off. And, if it's, as rugby as an example, if all you're thinking about is rugby and all you're doing is rugby all day, every day, it's very hard to maintain a real high level of intensity. Whereas if you can switch on to your rugby for 2 or 3 hours throughout a training in a morning or an afternoon, and then switch off and concentrate on spending time with your family, doing some study, some meaningful study, doing some work experience somewhere, it's proven it gets the best out of you. When you come back to your sport, you're fresh, you're excited, you're motivated, and that's all achieved through having a balance. And in my experience, my observation, the guys at the top of the sport, and in my case, it's All Blacks, guys playing international rugby, were the ones that always had the best balance. They were the ones that trained the hardest, but when training finished, they'd always have something else, whatever that is. It was different for every individual, but they'd have something else to put their mind to put their energy towards, so that when they came back to their rugby, they were fresh, they were revitalised. And I think, like I say, it's proven that that's the way it works best for individuals. That's the way you get the most out of your sport. I think the physical aspect of athlete transitioning out of their sport is something I underrated until recently, and it's only from talking to a lot of ex-players who have gone through the transition themselves that I realise how much that can impact just on your self-esteem. I think there are a lot of challenges when you're leaving your sport and you're finding another career, and this can be significantly influenced if you lose your fitness. You lose your conditioning that you've probably prided yourself on throughout your sporting career. And I think if you lose that, then it adds to the burden you're already facing of trying to find something in life that motivates you, and I think it can really affect your self-esteem. And as I say, it's only now that I realise it's something when I leave rugby, I need to I want to stay on top of my conditioning. I won't be training as much, but I certainly still want to have a good level of fitness and a good level of conditioning, so that I still feel good about myself and I'm ready to face all the other challenges that come with finding a new career. Before starting my professional rugby career, I completed a law degree at Victoria University in Wellington, and if rugby, hadn't have taken off for me, I would have started work as a law clerk, and I may still be there if it wasn't for rugby. And the first probably 8 years of my career, I kept my hand in with the law, so that if at any stage an injury or a lack of form meant rugby finished, then I was prepared to go back and work as a lawyer. And it's only sort of been in more recent years that I think maybe that's not for me, and maybe something still within sport, but using law as well is something that I'd be better suited to at the moment. Yes, I do think sports need to take a responsibility to prepare athletes for retirement, and every sport's different, but if I were to use rugby as an example, I think where you have a sport where their teams or provincial or national teams are taking guys as young as 15, 16, placing them in academies where they are training 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, then going into age group teams where they travel for 2 or 3 months of the year, and then have a professional career that can span from anywhere from 3 to 13 years. I think you are, in that instance, those young men are being denied the opportunity that most guys have of that age to develop a career outside of their sport. And while I realise they'll be rewarded financially, for that sort of career, I think there's more that the sport needs to provide for the reasons I just said, and I think they need to be given opportunities to learn, opportunities to develop skills outside of their sport, and ultimately then it's up to the individual to make the most of those opportunities provided. But I do think there is a responsibility, a duty of care on the sport to make sure those opportunities are there for the individuals. I try and balance the demands of my sport with the demands of family and study and working outside of rugby, just with good time management. I think it's a discipline that all sports players learn with time, and I think the good thing about rugby, and for that matter most sports, is that although they require a lot of dedication, there's only so much time you can spend each day training, and I think it leaves a lot of time, if you're organised enough, to still be a great husband, father, spend a lot of time with your family, and also spend a lot of time studying if that's what you want to do, or building up networks, trying to organise your life so that if when your sport ends, you're ready to take on another lifestyle.